Welcome to the KINGSBEAT podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We are, of course, a Blue Wire podcast brought to you by Prize Picks. Joining me tonight, Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
Always doing great when I get the first introduction.
We're trying to buy some time while Sean eats some ribs.
Did I lag?
You lagged. You're back. You're back. Okay.
I was saying always doing great when I get the first introduction.
There it is. All right. Well, hopefully we're not going to lag out the whole time. We are doing a live show here just because I don't want to edit afterwards. And we might as well just go for it and have some good folks in here. Cody Schill, you get the belt. You're the first one in here. Good work. Of course, joining us, Brenden and I as well, is Box 40, Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a busy day. I'm glad I can join you two fellas. And I'm having my first food of the day, which is not smart to do, but very happy that I'm able to accomplish that and talk to you guys at the same time.
Yeah.
We got a lot to talk about.
I think it's been a long day for everybody. You know,
Yes.
I had the show this morning. I raced right over to practice and joined you fellas. That was fun. Did we learn anything today? Did we learn anything?
You know what I did? You know what I learned? Yes. Essential water fills right to the brim. I just had happened to me what happened to you the other night at the game when I brought you one of these waters from the media room.
Sean brought me a water. It was totally filled all the way up to the top and spilled all over me. How is King's Pulse in here, Brenden? How is this even happening?
I can comment from the StreamYard.
What? You're going to comment?
Yeah.
You mean they're like dunk, 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 dunk.
I'm mute. Apparently my typing is loud in multiple areas and gets picked up, but I don't know that we necessarily learned anything today. Like De'Aaron Fox said, he doesn't think there's going to be any surprises between these teams. These teams have matched up a lot. And while they look really different, I don't know. I guess I came away from today thinking, and similarly to how I thought coming into it, that there's a lot of aspects, but I think a big factor is going to be as simple as who hits more triples, because both these teams do really rely on that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Sean, you got any initial thoughts from today's practice?
The other thing that I learned is that we started talking about the Sacramento Kings way earlier than we have in recent podcasts. And I don't know how to feel about that, because usually we take some moments to ourselves and
we meander.
Well, where's your candle, loser?
I haven't lit mine yet. Are you going to light yours?
One. Yeah, I got it.
Here we go. Let's
you guys light your candle while you light your candles. I'm going to do our standard basic intro. Look at this. These fools lighting candles with their light. You guys
full Lil Wayne.
Is that good?
It's audio? A race. It's a race. Okay, so look, while you guys are lighting your candles, which is always an odd moment, what do we got? 1,000 wishes scented candle. What do you got there, Brenden?
1,000 wishes. Isn't that some white chick song?
Lavender and cedarwood. I think lavender and cedarwood is also some white chick song. I don't know what that even means, Brenden, but we're just gonna go.
The movie White Chicks. I make a movie reference one time.
What?
It was Wayans Brothers, man.
1,000 Miles.
I know that movie. I know that movie for sure. Okay, if you are hanging out with us here on YouTube and you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. Let me see if I can make the thing go crazy.
Nope, you couldn't get your bubble.
No. What? All right. Well, that's disappointing to say the least. Okay, so jump on board with KingsBeat. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber. We are going to do I'm working on this thing. It's happening. We're going to do I don't know if it's going to be a live show. I don't think it's going to be a live show. I think what it's going to be is a live meet and greet with all of our KingsBeat friends. So that's going to be coming up soon. So you got to become a premium subscriber to get the invitation to all of that stuff. Outside of that, this has been a wild and crazy and I don't want to say disappointing as much as I do want to it's worn. This season seems to have worn on everybody, like whether it's the players, whether it's us. No, do you not feel that, Sean?
No, it has not worn on me. This is just normal. Do you guys feel different? Seriously? Like, why would you feel like this season is worn on you? This is uncharted territory for a lot of people. So I don't feel worn out. I don't feel that this season is in any way, shape, or form losing any intrigue. I think it's still a lot of interesting stuff there. I can see, trust me, I see social media mentions quite often, and there's some both positive and negative thoughts out there. And I think this season may have been a little bit of a roller coaster for some, but definitely not fatigued by it. I actually really enjoy this season so far.
I like this comment. Yes.
I think
agree.
racking.
Nerve-wracking?
Yeah, nerve-wracking. Okay.
Shut up, Sean. I think that like Cody Shill's comment of I want the season to be over is, I understand that perspective in a way, because I feel like this is somewhat of a holdover year. We've known that the way that this team is going to take the next step is by making a big addition, likely via trade. And I get just kind of waiting for that moment. But I think that there have been a lot of things to watch for this season, and that continues to be the case into the postseason, whether it's, again, De'Aaron's three-point shot, Keegan's defense, or just how they embrace these moments. Keon, I think there's still a lot of things to watch for. And this year ultimately is going to be defined by what happens in the postseason, which is still TBD.
Okay. I personally, I have no idea what's going to happen. Just so we set the stage so people understand, the Sacramento Kings are playing Tuesday night against the Golden State Warriors. This is the 9-10 matchup of the play-in tournament. If the Kings somehow beat the Warriors, they have the same exact 46-36 record. But if they do somehow beat the Warriors, they advance to play the loser of the 7-8 team, the 7-8 bracket, which at this point is the Pelicans and the Los Angeles Lakers. They're going to play before the Kings and Warriors, so we'll have an idea of what's happening before the Kings tip off. And I think it adds intrigue because I don't think you could have two diametrically opposed teams for the Kings, whether the Kings are 4-0 against this season. And that doesn't mean anything in a postseason matchup because LeBron James is there. The Pelicans, the Kings are 0-5 against this season. And I think that does mean something in a one-game play-in because the Kings haven't been able to beat that team and don't look like they are remotely ready to beat that team. So I think this is going to be a really weird and interesting night at Golden One Center. And what are you guys looking forward to the most about this matchup?
I'm really looking forward to the atmosphere. I want to see, I know this isn't a playoff game, although it will be treated as such, and it's a one game or go home, win or go home type of atmosphere. And for it to be in Sacramento and kind of hearkening back to the game 1 we saw last season against the Warriors, the game 7 we saw last year against the Warriors, I think Sacramento is going to make itself rather proud in terms of the atmosphere and the kind of hoopla around everything and just the way it sounds and feels within that arena. I think that'll give the Kings a much needed boost because obviously they're playing shorthanded and they're limping into the playoffs, which is obviously a huge concern. But a lot of that kind of goes away in just a one and out situation. And looking at how the play-in tournament went last year, there was some pretty interesting things that happened. We've documented, obviously, people know what the Lakers did and what the Miami Heat did, and you got the Lakers back in it, and they've obviously won the in-season tournament. So it's just the only thing that kind of is concerning if you're a Kings fan is the fact that you're limping in. You're probably playing the worst basketball of all of the teams combined in this play-in tournament, and as Mike Brown said, as some of these players will allude to, none of that matters when you're playing just one game. So that is what I'm looking forward to the most, is just seeing how this team, first of all, what the city looks like, what the Golden One Center looks like, but how the players in this team respond to that atmosphere, to this challenge, because as we've seen over the past few weeks, they haven't really risen to the occasion.
Yeah, I mean, to your first point, Golden One's going to be electric. I feel like everybody's very doomer, I guess, about this matchup, but I'm mainly excited to just be in that building tomorrow. I think that it's going to be a great game. These teams know each other really well. there's this pre-built history. Just from a storyline perspective, I feel like it's very easy to sort of get yourself up for this game. But the Warriors have been playing really good. They've won 10 of their last 12. They've sort of found a rhythm. It'll be interesting to me to see how much Draymond and Trayce Jackson-Davis play together. I'd imagine they roll with that starting group, but how much do you stagger them? For me, I want to see De'Aaron Fox have a really good game. We've seen mad Fox after technicals or a lack of calls or whatever it may be. I think that motivated Fox should look somewhat similar, and I think that you're going to see that tomorrow. And there's a lot of factors that will play in, but if De'Aaron Fox can manage to outplay Steph Curry, which is a very, very high bar, but I think that he's a phenomenal player and that's within the cards. If you can get a great game out of De'Aaron Fox, I think that's one of the biggest things that could really help this team.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I think this is going to be, number one, it's going to be a lot of I think it'll be a powerful night for the Kings. Like, I think the fans will show up. The prices, I know Devin here is talking about it in the chat. The prices are like ridiculous and way more than anyone else around the league, from what I've been reading. That's on the Kings. I don't think you need to investigate Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster has been ripping off people for like 40 years, and they're going to keep doing it because everyone lets them. But when it comes to these tickets in particular, like, look, the Kings have decided to put this thing at an astronomical price. I know as of Sunday, like the cheapest ticket anyone could find was like $350 for a lower bowl ticket. And I did see some stuff today around $199 for a lower bowl ticket for tomorrow night's game. But like, look, this is what playoffs cost. And while I don't think the play-in is a playoff game, it is a postseason game. And so I don't fully blame the Kings for going all in and getting their money here, especially after years of not making the playoffs. But I do think I think it's probably gonna open the door for a lot of Warriors fans to get in the building.
James, I was curious. I wanted to ask, Brenden was talking about Fox, and I think we all expect a monster game again from him. And by simple fact, just because he's playing the Warriors. I mean, I feel like in every game, I know he's only played in 3 of the games this year, but in every game, he typically does really, really well, whether it's a win or a loss. And this year, I think I was looking at it earlier today. He had a 39-point outing and then 2 29-point outings. And, when you think of 3 of these games, 3 of the 4 games coming down to being decided by 1 point is just wild to me. Even one of the preseason games was determined by 1 point. There's always something magical that just happens. It's like instant classic games. And I'm hoping that's what we're in store for, to be honest, because I just think it helps fuel the storylines and the legacy and the regional rivalry. Even if the teams don't really want to acknowledge it, it's still a regional type of rivalry. But the one thing I feel like I can 100% expect, aside from the building being bonkers, is that De'Aaron Fox is going to come and bring it.
Yeah, I think so too. And to be honest with you, like someone asked in the chat, it's a ways back, and I didn't bookmark it. I think Fox is, like, everyone expecting great things from Fox. He was incredible against the Warriors last season until he hurt his finger, and that really, really did knock the wind out of his sails. He was still good, but he wasn't great in the final games. But I think this is one of those moments where Sabonis has to step up, and he's a guy that, like, look, he did not have a great playoff series last year, but I would also say that like 3 of the games were excellent, and then 1 game was like maybe 2 games were like meh, and then a couple of games were really bad. But overall, like, he's a guy that at this moment needs to find a way to step up, especially against the Golden State Warriors team that has been starting a rookie at the center position. I think we'll probably see Looney. We'll see Draymond Green defend Sabonis, but I also think that, like, they're going to start with Trayce Jackson-Davis for the most part, because that's how their team works the best. Like, the reason why they went on their run is Trayce Jackson-Davis. Like, look, inexperience. He's coming into his first playoff series. He's going against like one of the NBA's strongest players, and I think like Sabonis is going to try to set a tempo early against him, and really just shove him under the basket and try to score on him. And I think that might be like one of the matchups to watch because, again, the Warriors are a much different team when he's on the court and than when he steps off. And that's why he's playing a bunch of minutes and Looney isn't.
Do you guys want Domas taking those mid-range jumpers? Something you kind of asked about today, James.
Yeah, if they go in.
Yeah, I'm comfortable enough with it where because for me, it needs to show an aggressiveness on his part to remain part of the scoring, carrying some of that scoring load on the offense. And even if some of them don't go down, it shows the willingness and the mindset that he has to put forth a scoring effort for tomorrow. Because let's face it, take away the playoff series from last year, where he had some ups and downs, and a lot of them were downs. He hasn't been scoring very much. I know that he took some opportunities, obviously, within the last game of the season against a very G League type of game against the Portland Trailblazers to close out. But I mean, fellas, these guys, he has not had a substantial scoring night in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what substantial is to you. I mean, he's put up 24, he's put up like 26, but he hasn't gone for like 30 plus. Brenden, I want him taking the jumper. Like, again, they're going to dare him to. And if he's confident and just goes for it, he's going to be just fine. Like, the jump shot is there. He's a guy who actually has worked tirelessly to get that shot like in line. We heard Mike Brown talk about it. That's like Doug Christie and him have been working on it like nonstop. And it was weird that he showed confidence against Portland. But I also like against Portland, like I'm glad that he didn't go inside because, like, to be honest with you, Moses Brown is like one of the sharpest elbow dudes in the league, and he's also not super coordinated. And I don't think Sabonis in a game that realistically ended up not mattering a ton, but also a game that you were going to win running away. I didn't want him going anywhere near Moses Brown in the paint because that's a recipe for ending up, missing a playing game with a concussion or getting injured because you're playing against a player who like realistically should be playing G League or against like third and fourth string centers, not Domantas Sabonis.
It is interesting to me that he was taking him in that Portland game. I had the same question that you kind of asked Mike today of, do you think that will keep up? And we'll see. I don't have as much of I'd like to see it mindset necessarily as it sound like you guys do, because I don't feel like we saw it that much throughout the regular season. And I think I'd feel a lot better if it was there more consistently. Like, why wait till now in my mind?
No, that makes perfect sense, Brennan. I get it. Like if he had gone 10 games without hitting a three, and then he went 2 for 3 in the previous game, and then I think he missed 1 or 2 against Portland. But again, 10 games without hitting a three after, for most of the season shooting around 41, 42%. I thought that was a bit disappointing to see him stop shooting. But then again, like I don't think you can really complain about Sabonis not shooting a three when the team shot 58 of them, right? And against whoever that was just like crazy talk. And I think we could see the same thing. I think we're going to see Golden State try to take away a lot of that interior stuff, which is they're really good at. They don't block shots, but they're really good at sealing off the middle of the key. And Sabonis is going to have to figure it out. Whether it's finding guys for the spray three or getting Harrison Barnes in some like high-low action and trying to feed him down in the post. Like they need to find a way to get some easy buckets. This just can't be one of those games where the first 10 shots from the Kings are 3-point shots, in my opinion.
Well, and I also wonder too, I mean, look, I know a lot has been made of the strides that some of the defensive lineups that the Kings have had, and I'm not trying to take away from that, but there's a part of me that thinks a lot of that doesn't play a part in a series against the Warriors. I mean, you'd like it to, but I just feel like these two teams are just so frenetic and can put up points with the best of them that do we see one of those games that we've come to expect when these teams get together, which is just this high scoring affair. And part of me thinks that it might.
You think the Kings can keep up though?
I don't. I
think they're
don't.
screwed if it's that type of a game.
I agree, and that's the part that gives me pause. But I do think that, as much as they want to hang their hat on some of the defensive strides that they've made, that we could be in store for a and look, the Kings have shown. I'm trying to bring up the game log here lately, but I mean the scoring has been down, right? And there are moments that kind of stick out, but that's when the three is really rocking, when they're really draining a lot of threes. So live and die by the three is kind of what this team has become, and I don't know that they're going to totally go away from that.
Defensively, I do think they have more options for Steph now than they did last postseason. Like Keon becomes an option, which I do worry or wonder, I guess, about how he's going to do with foul trouble in this series or in this game. Davion also, I think, becomes more of a defensive option because of the growth with his three-point shot. I'm imagining the Warriors will still probably ignore him, but I feel better about him knocking those down, which I think is going to be a big part here. But offensively for the Kings, that game where HB put up 39, I know that's an outlier. Outliers can happen in one game, and we're talking about one game. So you could have Davion, Trey, and Keon combined for 10 triples. Crazy things can happen in one game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the door is open for anything to happen in this game. I mean, someone said they hope that the game 6 Clay doesn't show up. And yeah, that's a possibility too. Like Clay hasn't played well against the Kings historically. Well, not historically, over the last 2 years. Like he also did have that 37-point quarter against the Kings. So he has played historically well against the Kings. But I think when we look at this this matchup, they played so early in the season. They played a whole bunch of games, and then they played one in January. And in my opinion, both teams are totally different than they were then. I think Kuminga has taken a much bigger role, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. I think that that you've seen again the transfer from Herter to Keon Ellis, and to me that's huge. We've seen Davion Mitchell become a super viable option, and I do think, to your point, Brenden, I think Golden State's going to leave Keon Ellis wide open right off the bat and try to make him prove it. And then they're going to leave Davion Mitchell wide open and try to make him prove it. They're going to sag off of Domantas Sabonis. They're going to make him prove it. If this team comes in with the right mindset that they're going to bust up a team that basically is daring them to beat them, then I think they've got a quality shot to win this game. I'm not super down on the Kings in this. I look at, Golden State's been good in the second half of the season, right? They've would you say 10 out of 12? But at the same time, the Kings have lost, they haven't been good. They're 4 out of 5 they've lost, or 5 out of 6, whatever it is.
I think 2 and 5 in their last 7.
2 and 5 in their last 7. Okay. But how many of those were really, really, really close games? How many of them did the 2-minute report either say that they got jobbed or seriously omit the fact that they got jobbed? What, 3?
OKC,
of the last
Boston,
4?
and then the Phoenix one wasn't in the report, but
with respect, that didn't cost them the game.
It did, but didn't.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not my point. My point is that we can say that the Kings aren't playing well, but realistically, they're not playing that bad. They had a ridiculously bad road trip that was again, a couple of scheduling losses in there, but overall, the games have been competitive. They've I not the Boston game, but the rest of them, have they had trouble closing? Sure, but they've also had 20-point leads on most of these guys, most of these games. So I kind of look at them and go, hey, look, they're not just so bad. And we always talk about one win, the one win idea, winning cures all. Okay, maybe you got that on Sunday. Maybe you did get the bump that you need to sort of the confidence to walk into a new game and feel like, hey, why not us?
Their consistency is really problematic right now, and I think they lack their identity for sure. I think they've been able to string some things together. Obviously defensively has been nice, but I feel like this team their troubles right now lie on the offensive end, and they don't put together a full 48.
Oh,
Sean doesn't put together a full podcast.
we lost Sean. Hopefully Sean comes back because he's just frozen.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're back.
Obviously the internets didn't like what I was having to say. But no, to me, this doesn't feel like a team that's clicking right now. I know they have some moments, but to me, this is a team that feels like they are battling to find an identity and some consistency. And clearly their best thing they have going for them is on the defensive end. But right now they feel like a discombobulated group that is trying to figure it out, and they're living and dying by the three. And I don't think that's a recipe for success. And it does give me pause. But to your point about it being a 1-game playoff, basically, yeah, I do feel that, with all that being said, that I do feel good about them coming in here and being able to win a game.
Brenden?
Yeah,
you're not feeling it, are you?
I guess I feel like I said before playing started that I just don't feel comfortable predicting these games. Anything can happen. Like, I go back to, I grew up a Celtics guy, but like watching Kelly Olynyk drop 27 in game 7, or Grant Williams shoot a ridiculous amount of 3-pointers in game 7 against the Bucks, and how many of them are going to go in. Like, I just feel like wild shit happens in the single elimination basketball games. You look at March Madness, and as much as I said earlier, De'Aaron Fox is going to be a big aspect here. Is Golden State going to roll out a defense that says anybody but that guy? I could totally see that being the strategy. It's so hard in my mind. I know I'm repeating myself, but just to predict a single basketball game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, especially like these teams haven't played each other for a while. And again, it's not just like Trace Jackson Davis is playing for them, like Podziemski's playing a lot. I think this is just like both teams are very different. The ones we saw early in the season. We talked to Mike Brown today about his rotations for the playoffs, and I thought his answer was pretty interesting. He's probably going to go with an 8-man rotation tomorrow, unless he has to go with something different. And that 8-man is clearly the starters, but then probably Alex Len and Davion Mitchell and Trey Lyles off the bench. Is that what we're kind of expecting?
Yeah,
Yes.
Go ahead.
But I would predict that Alex does not play. I think that you should go Trey at the backup 5. And this is kind of what we saw regular season. It was game 2 of the regular season these teams played. JaVale was still playing. Game 4, JaVale was still playing. And then you get to 16, JaVale played the first half. Trey plays the second half. Game 43, their last matchup, Trey was the only one to play as a backup center. And I think we saw them lean into it last postseason. I think that you just kind of play Trey because, to Sean's point, you do have to be able to keep up offensively.
So if that's who you're going with, who's your other player?
Davion. It's just 7.
You think he's going to go 7 players?
I could see it.
Huh.
Well, maybe Chris.
Maybe. Well, I actually think maybe Sasha, to be honest. I think there's, especially depending upon how things go. But I do agree. I don't think we're going to really. I mean, I wouldn't bet on seeing Alex Len, especially in this situation. I think it depends on how impactful Sabonis is and whether or not he gets into foul trouble. But I was trying to bring up some of the box scores earlier in this year against the Warriors. I mean, I don't know that's all that much food for thought, but yeah, I mean, I don't really recall a Alex Len sighting in any of those games. Do you guys?
From my memory, looking at it earlier, I don't think he played in any of them.
I would say that the point that I would make, though, is that Alex Len did play in the playoffs last year, for the Kings, and he actually played really well.
Well, in a series, no, that's different. We're talking about a 1-gamer, though, and
yeah,
that's what I mean. I don't know that.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that last year in a 7-game series, he played all 7 games, and 1 game he played 27 seconds, but he played 13 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes. And in most of those contests, he ran a plus. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Len plays. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but it seems like when you play a team like the Warriors, it's always the unpredictable things that usually work the best. If you try to match up with them, probably gonna lose. That's just who they are. They have more experience than you. They have two of the greatest shooters of all time. If you try to go straight up with them, you're gonna have trouble. And like, let's just go back to last year. In the playoffs, what they tried to defend Steph with Keegan Murray, and he just barbecue chickened him took him right to the basket again and again, and it was rough. Now I think Keegan's a different player this year, and I think he can actually probably be part of the rotation that tries to defend Steph. But I don't know. I think Mike will probably go 8-man, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot if it's Len in that mix, and if he doesn't play well, they'll go away from it. But like Brenden, you mentioned Chris Duarte. Chris Duarte is like I don't even want to say in the doghouse. Like, he's an afterthought at this point. I mean, Colby Jones has played a bunch more minutes than
Right.
Chris Duarte has over the last 2 weeks, and I'm not banking on him playing. I'm not banking on Kessler Edwards playing. I don't think, again, like Colby Jones, I don't think will play. Maybe Sasha, but even Sasha's got a couple of DMPs over the last 2 weeks, and that's after coming back after missing a bunch of time with injury. I guess if there's a way to use them, sure, but I think Mike's going to go with what's worked over a couple of weeks.
And the I was looking back at it. The November 28th game is, I think, the only game that even Keon Ellis had any run. So in this series, he only has played 5 minutes and 35 seconds, which obviously he plays so much more of a different role right now for Sacramento as a starter. So it'll be really fun to see how he responds to it.
I think similarly, Trace Jackson-Davis played single-digit minutes in all 4 of these games. I do like your shout about Sasha, though. I thought of him more so in a playoff series, and it might be different in a single game, but as a guy that could change the tide of one game. I feel like he's somebody that could come in and hit 3 threes in a quarter and just change the momentum a little bit. Now, I would probably side a little more with James, that I wouldn't expect to see him out there. But say you're struggling to hit anything, do you try him in the third quarter? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, if Mike has to go kitchen sink, the Kings are in trouble. Right? If you have that game where it's like, hey, it's just like, who's got the hot hand tonight? Who's going to step up and do something? Okay. If that's what's going to happen, you're going to lose. Like, I think that this game, it will probably be decided by like the 16, 17, 18 best players between the two teams. I don't think it'll go much deeper than that. I think we're going to see a ton of De'Aaron Fox on Steph Curry. I think we're going to see a ton of Keon Ellis. I think we're going to see a ton of Davion Mitchell. And then they're going to throw Keegan Murray on him as well. And then it's really going to come down to whose star gets stopped and who steps up to fill some of those minutes around him, in my opinion. And like, there's, someone's going to get hot for both of these teams. And you just hope that it's someone that you can contain if you're the Kings, because if it's if it's Andrew Wiggins and he's just going straight through Harrison Barnes again and again and again, and maybe that's when you do see a Kessler Edwards. But outside of that, I think this game is going to be decided by like a very few amount of people.
What are your guys' expectations for Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes? Those feel like some of the more unpredictable ones for me.
They always are.
Yep.
Especially on the offensive end. I think you're going to see a lot of Keegan Murray on Steph Curry. I think that's worked. But I'm curious to see if both of those guys recognize the blinking neon green light that they have. And I think, HB was obviously really, really big against the Warriors at one point in this season. His length has provided some problems for them as well at times. So I'm just, they need a scoring by committing. I really agree. I really think they do. It's going to be and like you said, can they keep pace? I don't know. This is one of those head scratchers in a one game situation. There's so many variables and all these things you can anticipate. It was kind of going back to what you said, James. about, what they want to do. Do they keep Keon? Do they respect him and Davion as a shooter? Do they leave Sabonis on the island like they did in the latter part of that playoff series? And I think if you're Steve Kerr, you can think of all those scenarios and almost kind of get in your head a little bit. In a playoff series, you can really hone in on some of those details. In a one-off, I think you just got to come out and play your game, right? And do what you can do. And all these like mismatches and trying to figure out what you do. Like there's just guys that haven't been in this situation before on both teams, but the team that has is the Warriors because they're the ones that are obviously championship built and they've got guys that are longer in the tooth and on the other side of the hill, so to speak. So, but all those guys are still supremely impactful. And we haven't even talked about Chris Paul yet, So this is
your X factor
for them. He is for me. Not necessarily for Sacramento though.
Like a Warriors player for Sacramento or no?
No, I mean in terms of here's Chris Paul. He's in the playoffs with a team. Gotcha. He's obviously an all-star defensively, and he's so damn smart. How will he disrupt what they do? Meaning Sacramento, and early in the season he hasn't really brought much to the table. I think there's one game he was really, really good that comes to mind, but what do you expect him to go to another level in a game like this?
I think Kuminga's an interesting monitor for me because he's somebody that I feel like either has great moments or can be somebody that can be harmful. And I think that turnovers are a big aspect here. It's been a weakness of the Warriors since they've been an elite team. And it's just going to be, can you make sure to score off of those? And Kuminga's a guy to me that feels very, very up and down.
Yeah, I mean, Kuminga can either kill you or he can just completely destroy his own team. Like, you really don't. I mean, he's been much better this year, but at the same time, like, if he gets in his mind that he's going to try to take over this game, I think that's a huge mistake. I just don't know that he's the guy. I kind of like for the Warriors, I do agree that CP3 is probably the X factor. He had that game early in the season when he had like 9 assists against the Kings, and like I think it was like 9 assists in the first half. It was just like he just kept dealing and dealing and dealing, and the Kings couldn't stop him. And outside of that,
a pest. He was also a pest still defensively. He can still frustrate the hell out of some guys, and he's got some antics. As we know, they've got a whole team full of antic players, and I love that the chat is aware of the CP3 Scott Foster possibility, which we haven't seen in a while. I don't know that we're going to see Scott Foster tomorrow night, but can you imagine the theater of it all if that happens?
I would love it. You know what I would love? Just, because we saw this the other night. Nurkic should have been called for a flopping technical, right? And then he gets called after the game. In a 1-point loss, you had it was a 1-point loss, right? You had a guy that should have been called for a technical foul during the game, and then gets hit with one after the fact. I would love for them to call Chris Paul for a flopping penalty, because he's the most egregious flopper there ever has been. Like, he is whatever Vlade Divac was. He's taken that and he's like gone to Robert De Niro's school of acting to take it up a notch. And to me, he actually does dangerous things on the court. And Steph does too. I don't like some of his flops. Like his flops, he falls backwards and makes a snow angel on the court, and there's nowhere for you to land. And you're like, what is he doing? There are a lot of weird stuff to this game, but I don't think that's what this game is going to be about. I think it's going to be a pretty straight up battle. And it's possible that one of them is going to run over the other one. Sean, you seem to think that the Kings are just going to get trucked here.
No, I don't think they're going to get trucked. I think that if I was to, I guess we can do this now. I like the Kings' chances. I do. I'm not saying that, if I was a betting man, I would bet the Warriors. I would bet on the experience, especially with the way that they've been playing. But sometimes, in these one-off situations, team can just. Fox said it tonight. It's like a bad shooting night can end your season, and a lot has to go right for Sacramento, I feel, but I don't think they're going to feel a lot of pressure. I really don't. I feel like, but I do feel like if I was to bet, I think that the Warriors control most of this game. And for the simple fact that they close out better than the Kings have, especially since Malik Monk has been off the table, the Kings have shown just an inability to close games, and that worries me, especially in these pressure situations. So, yeah, I wouldn't pick the Kings, but I don't necessarily hate their chances. I really don't. I don't see this really being a blowout. What I do feel is if you're looking at this as a scope of the season, and I think Brenden knows where I'm going because I mentioned it to him earlier today at practice. I said the absolute crazy thing would be to the theme of the season is they win a dramatic game against the Warriors, and then they go out and get shelled to New Orleans or LA. And even though they haven't lost to LA, it just feels like that's the type of game that they would be in for based on how some of these games have gone this season and sticking with that theme of the season. So, and to be honest, let's say you look beyond the Warriors. Okay. Let's say it is a win. It would be, I can't, as much as I hate the matchup with New Orleans for Sacramento, and I do, are they really going to win 6 straight?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. Maybe.
I think I'd rather play the Pelicans.
I'm
also just terrified of LeBron James, to be honest. That's the last person that I'd want to face.
I don't know.
And to that point, Brenden, you just played the Pelicans, right? And I know Brandon Ingram didn't play in that game, but there is a familiarity that you just had games ago. And you scored 125 points, was it? 125? You had to come back from some pretty big deficits. So there is a little, I don't know if I'd call it momentum, but there's just familiarity and some life to that as opposed to who you really haven't seen in a while.
Okay, so I fear LeBron like everyone else does because if you're not up 20 with 5 minutes left, he's just going to run at you every single play, and he's either going to dunk or he's going to go to the foul line. Like we've all seen this movie play out before, but I also think the Kings are playing much better defensively. I don't think the Lakers are really a squad as much as they are still individual players. And again, Anthony Davis is he questionable for tomorrow? I don't know what his status is for tomorrow, but he started having low back and hip spasms after yesterday's game.
He said he's playing.
He says, well, yeah, but that means absolutely nothing. He is listed as questionable for tomorrow. But again, if he plays, sure, they're going to be tough. But I also don't think that they got the Pelicans' best shot yesterday either. And so I'm kind of intrigued. I think it's weird that the Kings can't beat the Pelicans and they can't lose to the Lakers. I just think that's totally bizarre.
And since you brought up the injury report, for people who don't know, obviously Malik Monk will not play.
Will not play.
He's been ruled out completely. But on the Warriors side, Gary Payton will not play with a left calf strain. So he certainly played a factor in one of the games this season. See, I think it's a nice thing for Sacramento not to have to deal with him.
Yeah, they don't really have a player who can match up with De'Aaron Fox defensively. Like they can try to go bigger, but I don't.
Wiggins, right?
Yeah, but even that really hasn't worked out that well for him. So I mean, it's weird. These teams, I mean, you're looking at like 2 superstar guards, right? But then after that, you got so many question marks. It's the Podziemski versus Keon Ellis. Like, who's going to be the bigger impact player in this game? You've got like 2 of the strangest players of all time who just disappear in games in Harrison Barnes and Wiggins. And like, which one shows up? Like, if only one of them shows up and you have that one, you might be the winner because of it, and then I think you've got the Kings have a much better option in Sabonis than I think the Warriors do as their like number 2. And I kind of like some of the other matchups. It's just kind of depends if the Kings show up. Kind of depends if Domantas Sabonis is able to shake loose and go get a couple of buckets early and start building some momentum. If you can't, then you're going to start hearing sort of that murmur in the crowd that like, oh boy, here we go again. And then I think it could be a long night.
On the who's defending Fox thing, like I was looking back at that, I believe it's game 4 shot that HB missed in the postseason that would have taken them up 3-1 in that series and started that play. And they did this later in the series and kind of mixed it up. Draymond was actually guarding Fox for a little while. And I wonder how much De'Aaron's growth as a 3-point shooter impacts this game. He was getting up a decent amount in that Warriors series, but I feel like there has been a lot of progress since that. I just think a big thing, and De'Aaron plays a big part in this, is we've seen the Kings struggle with slowing down opposing runs. And the Warriors have been for a long time and are still really damn good at going on runs quickly. And it needs to be a 12-2 run rather than a 24-4 run, and I think that's going to take getting to the free throw line, which is something Harrison can really bring in this game. Same with De'Aaron and Domas, obviously, but trying to not let a quarter get out of hand, I think is going to be big.
Yeah, it's that damn third quarter where the Warriors just come out and like punch you right in the face. And if you can survive the punch, you can beat them. They've blown a lot of big leads as well this season. They're, a lot like up until this final stretch here where look, they played some good basketball. They didn't have a crazy difficult schedule down the stretch, but they also, they've been winning. And so it should be interesting. Let's get to some of the other news. Let's just kind of bounce around a little bit.
Well, as you do that real quick, just that was one thing I wanted to bring up at one point. Their road record, by the way, I mean, they're better on the road than they are at home at Chase Center, which is
the Warriors
kind of crazy. Yeah. I mean, they're 25-16 on the road. They're one game over 500 at home.
Okay, but the Kings are almost like they're very similar.
Very, very similar.
24
and 17 at home.
Yep. Okay.
But 22 and 19 on the road.
Yeah. Oh, weird. Like how the Kings aren't a better home team. I don't get it. I mean, again, the sight lines in Golden One seem to have been like just everyone shoots the lights out. I do think look, I think the Kings are a much better defensive team than they have been. Their defensive rating after the All-Star break was like spectacular. Under 100. Well, it's right at like 110 per game. Let's see. They finished defensive rating post All-Star game. They were 9th in the NBA at 110.9. The Warriors were 7th at 110.5. The Kings offensive rating 115.3. The Warriors 115. Like these teams really are mirror images of each other. Just like they get it done a little differently. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would like gauge and like put a name on it. I don't think I'm going to say like I expect this team to win. I have no idea. I'm kind of like what Brenden said earlier. Like I wouldn't bet on either one of these teams at all. So they're just
all we know is it's someone's season's going to end. That's it. And it's going to have a different energy than the other play-in game where if you lose, you get to get another day.
Yeah.
I know I said I wouldn't earlier, but I'll attempt a fun prediction with a caveat that if Davion and Keon combine for 6 made threes or more, I think the Kings will win the game. Maybe I am very obvious here, but I think those guys are going to get dared to shoot, and they got to knock it down.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there's potential for them to hit even more than that. That's a good caveat. I would also say I think the game really does the Trace Jackson Davis thing. If he avoids getting in foul trouble early and is a factor, I think the Warriors are tough to beat. Like his passing ability, his ability to block shots, he's just an active big body. I just like him better. They've been a better team with him in the lineup than they have with Looney this year. And that's kind of where I look at. I don't know.
I've got one little caveat too. Yeah, I feel, and I was going to say this a minute ago when you were talking about the third quarters that the Warriors do, but I feel like if the Kings have a lead going into the fourth, they'll win that game.
Really?
Okay.
And I'll bring in, you know what? I do have that stat this season.
It's something crazy, actually.
Yeah. I'll bring it up. Go ahead, James. I'll stall for me for a minute and I'll bring it up for you guys.
Okay. Well, while you do that, I'll just, if you guys are out there, I will be doing prize picks through the game tomorrow. Prize picks is, of course, a sponsor here at the KINGSBEAT podcast. Had a great time playing all season long. I've done okay. Too many 6 picks. Too many. What do? I go goblins. Is that what I do? I think demons. Demons. I play too many demons.
What are you talking about?
But I'm talking about price picks. It's one of those things where I've had a good time. I've missed a couple of huge wins, but I've also I've had plenty of like break evens and solid victories. If you go to prizepicks.com and you go to sign up for the first time, use the promo code KINGSBEAT, all one word. And they'll match up to, I believe it's $100 if you're a first time user. So check out Prize Picks. It's super fun. Look, everybody out there is like, everyone's prize picking or playing some other game. And it's wild to see how the NBA world has changed so much on that, especially with the league jumping in on all this stuff.
I was 1 point away from hitting a 6 pick the other day.
One point, like a scoring
I needed
point?
1 point from a player.
Oof.
You saw that, Sean, the one I lost De'Aaron Fox 29.5 points. He finished with 29 and missed like a shot and then didn't get to the free throw line in the last seconds. And that was a big win. That would have been huge. I still won, but I did not win the $2,000 six
really
pick. That would have been fun.
Cool.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a big one. Yeah, that was a big one. Early in the season.
I did find the stat here.
I'm listening for your stat.
42-8. 42-8 when leading after 3 quarters. Heading into the fourth, the Kings are 42-8. But here's another dubious one. You ready for this one? What do you think it's dubious. What do you think how many wins do you think the Kings have when they're trailing at the half?
Oh, I don't know.
It's got to be low, obviously, like 13.
Okay. James?
No, I would say when they're trailing at half, they're probably like 5 wins, something ridiculous.
Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous. 7.
What?
7. Okay. Well, I can counter with this one. The Kings have scored 120 or more, and it's something like 40 times, and they're like 35-5 in those games. So yeah, if they scored 120, they got a really, really good shot at winning.
They do have that weird magic number this year. It is a very fine line between when they reach that and when they don't.
What about when they give up 120?
It's probably most games, Sean.
What are you talking about? They finished 14th in the league. 14th in the league in defensive rating.
Only the first half of the year, but second half there was improvements.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. 32 times this season they gave up 120. Whew.
How many did they win?
Not a lot of them. Not a lot of them. 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Wow.
Whew.
Okay.
13 and 19. Is that what we just did? Was it 32? Yeah, like when they score under 120, for some reason, like they barely ever win. And it was only they've picked up a couple of wins down the stretch where they went 120 or more, where they win 120 or less and picked up some wins. Let's get to some of the other news. It does look like reports are out there that Jordi Fernandez will take on the Brooklyn Nets job as a head coach. So shout out to Jordi. What do you think about that one? Because to me, like Jordi, I was surprised he didn't get a job this last offseason, especially with like the Toronto job open. I thought that was one that he not only had interviewed for, but like it looked pretty good. But I think this is like a good thing for Mike Brown's coaching staff to get some recognition and guys start to get some jobs outside of Sacramento.
Yeah, I thought the Toronto one would happen too. Canadian national team head coach now as well. But if not this, maybe Charlotte, but Jordi deserved another spot. It seemed like he's very highly regarded around the league. Every team that comes into town, I swear that Jordi is just chopping it up pregame with a lot of guys from the other side. He seems to be very well liked, and it's the biggest compliment that you can have to a coaching staff. The best staffs in the league have players or have assistants taken from there and promoted to bigger roles on other teams. So Mike is also another guy that seems to be very well liked, and I'd imagine that he will have different candidates to come and fill this defensive coordinator opening now. But overall, it's a good thing for the Kings, even if they do have something they now have to replace, and it's well deserved for Jordi. Now, does he want to bring Kevin Huerter or Harrison Barnes with him in exchange for Mikal Bridges?
Look what he did.
Oh.
Look what he did.
Oh. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I don't really have much more to add on that. I would just say that, it speaks volumes to what people think of him around the league. And to have a coaching staff that can basically provide opportunities, especially at a head coaching level in this league, I know you said it's a feather in the cap, but it's even more than that. It's a real big opportunity, and it really shines a light on the good job that your staff is doing. So what interests me is not how Jordi will do in Brooklyn, because I got to a point this year seeing that, knowing that you have 3 openings in the East, you're probably going to have an opening with the Lakers very shortly. It definitely suspected that it got to the suspect that you were going to expect him to be outside of the Kings next year, and him coaching his own staff. And it'll be interesting to see if he takes anybody with him. It'll be interesting to see what happens in who gets replaced or maybe bumped up, but certainly it's a good problem to have. And congratulations to him and his family, because it's a tremendous, tremendous opportunity for him.
Yeah, I think so too. A couple of questions here in the chat. John Poles, does Luke Laux go with Jordi? Luke they're all really close. I'm gonna guess that Luke stays and moves to the front of the bench, which is something that he has not done in his career. That's at least my opinion. I think he'll be a guy who gets moved up. I think he's proven not only is he a good basketball mind, but they also had him coach the summer league team last year, and that's sort of like a next progression for him. And then the other question, will Doug step up now? I don't know. I don't know what it means for Doug. But I will say that, like, Doug has done a really good job. They trusted him with Davion the first year under Mike Brown, but in year 2 and summer 2, they had him working with Domantas Sabonis like nonstop on all of this stuff. Like, that's kind of where you want to be. You want to be working with superstars of your team, and so hey, I think there is potential for Doug to move up into more of like a defensive coordinator position, but we'll have to see what Mike wants to do there. I have no inside knowledge on that one at all. But I do think Laux, you got to remember these guys, like we talk about this all the time, but so many of these guys have young children. And if you're in a really good situation where you're at and you're comfortable and you don't want to pick your entire family up and move them somewhere else, then, I don't think you would if you don't have to. So I don't know.
Laux also kind of like the one to assign to De'Aaron, and they seem to get along really well, obviously. And earlier this year, I forget exactly what scenario it was, if assistant wasn't available or if it was Mike and Jordi stepped up, but there was a spot temporarily for a game available at the front of the bench, and Luke was the one to have moved up. Like, to me, that summer league you mentioned, he seems like the guy to at least move up a spot, not necessarily into Jordi's spot.
Yeah, totally. And he's also very close with Dolkes, who is like, they were college teammates at Florida State. And again, their families are here. They all have, all these little kids all over the place. Like, look, you're also looking at what happens if you stick with Mike. If you stick with Mike, there's a good shot that you're going to eventually get noticed and have an opportunity in the league, which is what Jordi's going through right now, which is good for Jordi. So, do we have
Fun
anything
fact,
else?
real quick, about
Yes.
Luke Laux? I was looking up some of his overseas highlights earlier, like last year or something. He wears number 55 and does some interesting passes. Looks very Jason Williams. Asked him one day, same agent, and they've worked out together before.
Oh,
For what it's worth. Looks a little like Jay Will when he plays.
My question for Luke is, if he does move to the front of the bench, is we have this very weird disparity. The front of the bench, all of them are bald. The back of the bench, all of them have great hair. Will you give up your hair to go to the front of the bench?
Like that's a requirement. That'd be funny.
Yeah, I think it might be a requirement. It might be. I mean, you got Doug, you got Jay Triano, you got Mike, you got Jordi. In the back, you got Dolkeys, and you got all kinds of guys back there. All of them have hair. It's just weird dynamic. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Age, buddy.
Anyway.
Age. You don't see a lot of old dudes in the second row.
That's maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. Do we have any questions in the chat? Anyone got anything for us? No. GF, Mike Brown's replacement. There goes. You think Jordi Fernandez was Mike Brown's replacement? I don't think that's the case.
Is there anybody that comes to mind for you guys as a replacement?
Is there what?
For Jordi? Anybody that comes to mind as a potential Jordi replacement?
Oh, I don't know.
I hadn't thought much of it. What about in the event that Lindsey Harding doesn't get the Charlotte job? Maybe she goes with Jordi Fernandez to Brooklyn, but another situation could be maybe Mike Brown elevates her to an assistant role on her team. It'll be interesting who takes over the associate head coaching role, whether he brings somebody in or he just elevates. So maybe someone like Jay Triano stepping into that role of associate head coach. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, Mike Brown has been all over this league and has all kinds of connections. And I know someone pointed out, Mike Budenholzer in the chat at a certain point. I don't know. What did I think of Drake's diss track? I have thoughts, and there have been people who've heard my thoughts. I did not like it. I thought it was weak AF, and really enjoyed the Rick Ross response. I have a lot of thoughts. Man, he wants to clown Kendrick Lamar's height, but yet pals around and puts Lil Wayne and Big Sean as legends. Okay. He wants to claim that Kendrick Lamar goes pop music by collaborating with the likes of Taylor Swift and Maroon 5, but yet Drake is the living embodiment of hip hop pop. Where else can we go here? Yeah, Kendrick Lamar comes from Compton, who signed a lifetime record deal. Okay. Drake was on a TV show out of Canada with brilliant health care. Not exactly the same thing. Where do we want to go? I'm not a big
you can't tell me that like anything that Kendrick said was great either, or that like Rick Ross saying, "Oh, you got a nose job" was a great diss. Like,
I mean, I'll say this, and I know the whole story of drop and give me 50, seeing him do push-ups and all that stuff, but to see a diss track have a hook and have one as corny as that shit was just laughable. That was so weak. Usually you got a diss track, James.
A lot have hooks now.
Go look. No. Go look up Ether, no Vaseline. You're not really going to hear a lot of hooks on these diss tracks. So if you look at Rick Ross's diss track that just came out, which I will agree was quite aggressive, and he put it out very quickly. He was sitting on some things there that I think that he needed to
sure.
Yeah. Sure. James, there's an education I can give you later, but
nope.
It is quite wild out here in these music streets at the moment. And
my friends D-Lo and Casey try this all the time, and I say nope. I say nope. I don't want to hear about wrestling, and I don't want to hear about diss tracks.
I can tell you this. I initiated, I will say, a conversation at a Kings game. It was the Pelicans game. It was the Friday game. Or was that the Suns? I'm confused. It was whatever the Friday game was. And I saw our friend Kenny Caraway. And I said, you love you some Drake. You love Drake. And that was
He
the
does his
day
Drake hard.
before the Drake diss track came out. And we had a nice conversation, him and Jay Johnson. And he's a producer over where Brenden works, if I can say that. And I put him all on a good morning text the next day. And we talked about it for about 6 hours.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not talk about it anymore.
But Drake won.
Yeah.
No, God, no. It ain't even done yet. First quarter.
It's not.
No, like I'm waiting for Marvin Bagley to jump in here. Let's get to this question. Edward, do you think Sabonis has lost some confidence of late? His body language looks concerning. No.
Yeah,
I think he misses Malik Monk. I think he misses Malik Monk more than any other player on the Kings team. He's the guy that hits him with the pocket pass. Yeah, no, you're right. Both of them. People forget they get all caught up with the 25 points per game between Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, and you're missing out that they're almost 8 assists per game. Like those two are secondary playmakers on this team that they desperately miss, and both of them are really good in the 2-man game with Sabonis, and I think he misses it. And I don't think his body language is concerning. I just think he's frustrated because he wants to win, and they're not winning. Yeah.
There's a very odd question here that I think I just have to answer. Sean, my friend Omar said he took a trip to Mexico with you. Is it true or is he full of shit?
He said Guadalajara too. Oh, Sean froze.
Oh, he might be. I don't remember Omar's. I don't remember Omar though. I might need the last name, but I can text a friend of mine and ask. There was a lot of people on that trip. If that's the one I'm thinking of.
So it's possible. It's possible that you went.
TFTI.
All right.
Yeah.
Chris Herrera, Sean, are you a fan of pocket watchers? Do you think you can beat Casey? Chris, I've never lost to Casey. I don't know why you guys would ask that. Like pocket
watchers.
What is
pocket watcher? What are you talking about?
We throw out a player name and you got to guess their career earnings.
Oh
no,
Frankie likes
it's a lot of fun.
At it.
Who's good at it?
Well, Kenny claims to be good at it, but I haven't lost to Kenny. And he's on a streak right now where he's beating up on Jesse pretty bad. But it's fun. It's usually like it's a bit, but it's a lot of fun. So we usually say like how many years they played in the league, and I think what their highest salary was in any given year. Yeah. See.
Okay.
It's fun. Next time, if you ever decide to come back in studio and hang out, we can do pocket watch.
I could try one real quick.
Yeah, you want to play?
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna do pocket watching right now.
We got to put our hands up to make sure no one's Googling.
Oh yeah.
I won't participate, obviously. 12 years of experience, Corey Joseph.
Oh, geez.
All right.
12 years?
Let me get down to, we said the highest annual.
Yeah, you can do highest annual, and he played 12 years.
12 years. His highest annual was the contract he got with the Kings, $12 million.
Okay. Sean, you go ahead and go first.
I'm going to say 49 million.
James.
Oh, I'm going to go like 56.
72.
Ooh,
James wins.
All right.
After his rookie deal, it looks like there's about a 4-year 28, and then the Kings deal before he went to Detroit.
All right, do one more.
Okay.
Because I want to see if I can even it up.
Okay, let me think of a name here then.
Keep your hands up, James. I see you.
Should I go another former King?
I don't care what you do.
Yeah, I don't care either.
Robert Woodard.
No.
Stop.
Mo Harkless?
Oh, damn.
Should we go Mo
no,
Harkless, or should I do
it's
a
got to
different
be
one?
someone. Yeah, it's got to be someone less obscure.
Okay. Okay. What about Peja? 13 years. And the highest
Look at James's hands. Googling. 13 years for Peja.
Phone is blank.
Highest annual is his second to last season, actually, with the Toronto Raptors, $14.8 million.
Huh.
You go first
Peja
this time, James.
Stojakovic, 13 years.
Okay. Let me see.
That first year, I don't even know what the hell. That first contract though. That's a. Keep your hands up, James. Where we can see
What are you
them.
talking about?
You
I'm thinking.
cheater.
I'm
You
doing
said I had to
math
say
in
it
my
like
head.
15 times.
I need an
Well,
abacus.
count on your fingers like everyone else does. There they are down again.
89 million.
Okay.
Well, I guess all I have to do is just go above that.
You're
I'm going to
so
say
lame if you do that. Don't do that.
I'm going to go 109.
I think you're going to beat me.
97, pretty much 98.
That's pretty cool.
So, Sean,
we tied.
Closer
Wait,
there, right?
I said 89, didn't I? Yes, I said 89.
What did we say?
Someone in
89.
chat rewind and type it in here. We need help.
I said 89 million. He said 109. You said it's 98. I'm closer.
Review.
Are you closer? Or
We're
are we
gonna
the
need
same?
chat. I think Sean was closer.
Yeah.
We're gonna see what chat says.
Sean,
here,
what did you say?
I said what did I say? 108, 109, something like that.
Yeah, and I said 89, and you said it's
Okay.
98. I'm off 9, and he's off 10.
Okay. You're right.
See?
Chat is backing you. Yeah, I'm a
Suck
horrible
it. Suck it, bitches.
His hands were down a lot, though,
for,
Sean.
Make that the
Yes.
thumbnail for this one.
His hands were down a lot.
Yes, James wins. Yeah, Brenden doesn't do math good. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. I got a show to do in the morning, and then we have a long day. It's gonna be a really, really crazy day tomorrow. What do we got? What do we got for final thoughts? Brenden, what do you got?
That even if the Kings lose this game, that I am not viewing this season as a failure. Like, I feel like a lot of the fan base will probably react to if that's the case. And I understand the emotional, aspect that comes with being a fan, but this was always ever since they did not make a trade at the deadline, a gap year of sorts, but that doesn't mean there wasn't things to watch for. And I think there have been notable improvements. So even if they lose, given the injuries, I wouldn't call it a failure.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's not a failure. You just have answers to some questions. I realize people always want to see teams get better, but I said at the beginning of this year, you could lose more games and be better situated for a deeper play-in run. And had they not fallen to the 9th place in the play-in tournament, that might have been true. If you were 6th or even 5th compared to being 3rd last year, I think you would have been in a pretty good situation to make a little bit of a run. Obviously, health is factored in on that as well, but I would agree with that. My final thoughts is cool to catch up with Chris Webber again. Good to see him back in town. By God's grace, it's not a religious book, but he kind of explained to me the title. It's also one of the very first words he spoke in his Hall of Fame induction ceremony when he had Isaiah Thomas and Charles Barkley up there getting him into the Hall of Fame. But it's just great to catch up with him, see him back in town. And then, of course, Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox and some other Kings players really salty about officiating after the Phoenix game. And it was just, apropos to see so many of those guys from that Western Conference Finals team in the building when that all took place. But that all snarkiness aside, was really cool to see a lot of those guys back in town. So
yeah, I agree.
Fun stuff.
I also want to highlight something that Meg says here. If this season was last season, we would have been stoked.
Yeah,
that's a very good perspective to have, and I'm kind of with these guys. Like, I think you knew what you needed to help this team get over the hump at the deadline, and either that player wasn't available or you weren't willing to give up what you needed to give up to get it. And you go into this offseason, there has to be changes. And with personnel, I don't think there has to be changes with coaches or front office or anything else. I think very distinctly you need long athletic players that we see what one guy in Keon Ellis can mean for a defense. And to me, like that, you need more of that. You need more of that. You need the small forward version, the power forward version, maybe even a backup center version of that. And that's how you can build out this team. So I'm not bummed out by like this season or how it's gone. I think a lot of growth happened. Shout out to De'Aaron Fox for leading the league in steals. Shout out to Domantas Sabonis for leading the league in rebounds per game, triple doubles, double doubles, 7th in the league in assists. Like, where are you going to find a dude that does something like that? That's, to me, it's a remarkable his season. I think that Keegan Murray took some big strides forward. I think Keon Ellis showed that he's a ball player. Like, there's some really cool things to take away from this. And hey, look, I'm hard on Davion Mitchell all the time. And it's not because I don't like him. It's because I just don't think he's ever fit in Sacramento, unfortunately. And from the All-Star break on, the dude figured out how to fit. And I think he's been absolutely tremendous the entire second half of the season. And so good. Like, there's a lot of positives to take away from this season. You lost some stupid games and you got to figure that one out. But at the same time, like, this team is some tweaks away from being really, really good. They're not like an overhaul away from being good, like what we've dealt with for so many years here in Sacramento. So that's kind of my final thoughts. Okay. Anyone going to the game tomorrow? I'm hoping a lot of you guys will see at the game. I will be there. Sean will be there. Brenden will be there. We'll all be there. Cool. Let's see. What else do we have going on?
Were there tickets still available? I know people were bitching about ticket prices, and probably rightfully so, but were there it's not sold out, or were they available?
I'm going to guess that they are available. That you can probably get some, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm expecting this to be a 100% sellout. And I like that you guys are just rattling off random.
Yeah, these are random Kings names coming up.
Where does it start? Name a Kings player you forgot was a Kings player, and Chad is loving it. Is there any
Jeff Grayer
names to bring back memories here?
Gravis Vasquez, when he got traded, I was on a boat heading to the Caribbean, literally pulling out of Miami, and that was the Rudy Gay trade.
Ramon Sessions. Whatever happened to Ramon Sessions here in Sacramento, I never understood. He was so good the year before he got to Sacramento. It was like someone like hit him in the head and he couldn't play basketball anymore. He was a very nice guy, but he didn't seem to realize how bad it was.
Ramon Sessions actually is partnering with Tisha Penichero with a athlete representation company. So
nice.
Yeah, okay. That's big.
Man, you guys have thrown up some great names in here.
Sharif, let's make sure we get Sharif's name right. Sharif Abdur with an R.
Abdur Rahim.
Had you guys ever heard of Justin James before they announced his name on draft day?
Of course.
Really?
Yeah.
Before draft day?
Yeah. Was he in the tournament or something? He was Nebraska, no? Or
also
Justin James? No, Colorado.
Or no, not Colorado. It's some Wyoming. No?
Oh, Wyoming. You're talking about. I thought you said Jerome James.
No,
Jerome James.
Yeah. I had no idea who Justin James was before the draft.
No. And I mean, Jerome James, like, people didn't know him either, like, coming into the league. But I remember watching him in warm-ups before his rookie season, while it was a fan fest, and he did a 360 helicopter dunk. There was like, what in the world did I just watch for a man who was like 7'1", like 280 pounds, and then he went on to play for the Harlem Globetrotters. Like, that dude had a lot of skill, but he couldn't stay healthy. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, also, I know we were talking about the NCAA tournament over the past couple of weeks, and I had mentioned, obviously, Duke with, Jared McCain, who's from Sacramento. I wanted to give a shout out to Michael Yogi Stewart's son, Sean Stewart, who is also a Duke Blue Devil. He was a freshman this year. Hopefully he doesn't enter I don't know if he's in the transfer protocols, but hopefully he stays, and might be seeing him next to Cooper Flagg next year. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, hey, where are the Boozer twins going?
Good question. I don't know. I haven't seen.
Oh, they're going to be, they're awesome. You're talking like number 1, number 2 picks. Carlos Boozer's boys. Man, you guys have brought up some good names in here. I could like name Kings all day long. Evers Burns. How about that one? Yeah. Marty Conlon. Yeah.
No
You
need
know,
to remember Marty Conlon. We're
No.
fine there.
Yeah. They also had Michael Jackson, not the singer, but Michael
Jeez.
Jackson. Yes.
Little different.
Yeah. Harold Presley. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of the King's Beat podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you're still here and you don't mind, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber to the King's Beat so you get an invitation to the, I'm going to say the upcoming, because we're going to do it as soon as the season's over, the upcoming meet and greet with the King's Beat, where we all get together at some place and just hang out and chill and maybe watch some
James's
playoff basketball.
house.
You're not coming to my house. You're not coming to my house. Okay. So for Fox 40, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the King's Pulse podcast. Wait, I got one last thing to add.
Oh,
One last thing to think. Number one, follow all the good work Sean is doing over Fox 40. Brenden is fired up the King's Pulse podcast again with Hunter, and it's good stuff. Also, drop by and see me and my good friend Kyle on the Insiders Monday through Friday on ESPN 1320. And this week, crazy time, we're giving away $500 every day. So there's a password. You can jump on board. There's a password that we give out on the Insiders, and you can have a second chance to win with a second password on D'Lo and Casey. And then we do a drawing every evening, and someone wins $500. And we're doing it 10 consecutive days. So today was the first day, and you got 9 more days where we're giving away $5,000 total in dollars, like monies. So jump on board. Should be cool. All right. We'll see you guys soon. And thanks for tuning into the King's Beat podcast.